Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Never Knew, But My Dog Did podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm so thrilled that everyone is enjoying the podcast and responding with your 5-star reviews, you're subscribing, share it with your friends. This community is growing because we all connect with the struggles that we have in life. Hence, I Never Knew is the title. So we learn from one another. Today, I have a fabulous guest, as I always do. They are all fabulous. And his name is Nicky Billou. And Nicky is a thought leader, a business coach, and an inspirational speaker. He is a podcast host and international #1 best-selling author. Ultimately, he helps people get out of their own way. As we know, humans, we're always in our own way. And he can help them to value themselves and work and do the work that they do. And sorry, I lost my spot here. So Nicky challenges us to think about how badly we might want to change. And the clients he works with are committed, coachable, resourceful. And he talks about how this can apply both in business and in personal. And I cannot wait to hear his I Never Knew story that brought him to so much success. So good morning and welcome, Nicky.
Maureen, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So happy. Now, my friend Nikki is in Canada where it is snowing. And as
Yeah.
a sun girl that grew up here in Phoenix, it makes me cold just thinking about it. So I send it, we all are sending him lots and lots of warm hugs today. So Nikki, what we do is we start with our I Never Knew story. So we all have to be at the bottom to rise up to the top. Tell me what your story is and your background of where you were at your lowest point, feeling that things just weren't going the way you wanted in your life.
That's a great question. So, several years ago, I was married, and my then wife and I, we had a couple of kids together. And then, seemingly out of the blue, she didn't want to be married to me anymore. I was taken by surprise, shocked, devastated, and I went into a really, really low place. You know, I blamed at that point in my life. I blamed myself and I blamed her, but I didn't take any responsibility. And I went into a spiral. She and I, we had a business together, but obviously we didn't anymore. And for a while, I was sleeping on my mother's couch and I wasn't making any money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was not a great point in my life. It was not one of my proudest moments. A grown ass man sleeping on his mom's couch when he's got 2 sons and a family to take care of. So one day, I was out at a business conference and there was a man, his first name was Bill. He did a talk there. And Bill was a great speaker and he delivered a powerful talk. It resonated with me. You ever been in a room when someone delivered a talk that resonated with you, that touched you in the deepest recesses of your soul? You know what I'm talking about, Maureen? That's
Yes.
the kind of experience I had with this man that day with Bill. And when his talk was over, I plucked up my courage and I walked up to him. And I was very frightened, but I knew that I did not want to be in this crappy situation I was anymore, making no money, sleeping on my mother's couch, you know, feeling less than whale crap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I said, "Hey, Bill, my name's Nicky. Really enjoyed your talk. And I think I need to hire you." There's no preamble. I just went like that. And he looked me up and down, nodded his head. He said, "I understand. I understand." He said, "But here's what you need to understand. Um, my minimum fee is $5,000 for 5 hours of my time. I get paid upfront. I offer no guarantees and no refunds."
Wow.
And he looked at me, and those words made me shrink into myself. It's like, oh my God. And I just stammered out, but I don't have that kind of money. And he took pity on me, honestly. And he just said, yeah, I know. He said, but I'm going to do you a favor. Okay. He said, I'm going to give you some free coaching advice right now. And I said, please. And he said, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you're broke and you don't have that money right now. And I said, it doesn't. And he said, no, it doesn't. He said, the only thing that matters is how bad do you want change? How bad do you want change? Because if you want change badly enough, you will become resourceful and you will find a way to come up with that money. And if you don't, you won't. And he said, do you understand what I'm saying to you, Nicky? And just, you got to understand, Maureen, I am a very proud man from the Middle East. You know, pride is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. And I wanted to slap him, but I didn't, because he wasn't affronting my pride. He was telling me the truth. And as hard as it was to hear, it's exactly what I needed to hear. It was tough medicine, but the patient needed it. And I said, okay. And there's a fire lit inside me. And I said to him, I said, Bill, give me 2 days. Give me 2 days. And he said, okay, here's my number. So as soon as I left, I was imbued with a purpose. And that purpose was to come up with the money. At the time, I was a personal fitness trainer. And I was in conversation with a number of individuals about helping them get fit. None of them had made a decision. But I had this energy in me, and I just called them up and I said, look, here's the deal. I have good news for you. And they're like, whoa, this dude's really intense right now. And I said, you're fat. You need to get in shape. I'm broke. I need money. This is good news, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you the deal of the century. Deal of the century? What's this dude talking about, right? Deal of the century is this: half price to work with me on the figure I last quoted you. But here's the catch. You got to say yes right now, and you got to pay me in full right now. So what's it going to be? Well, a couple of guys gave me $1,000, right? I had $2,000. And I called up Bill and I met him, and I plopped down $2,000 on the table. And he said, Nicky, I said 5,000, not 2,000. And I said, wait a minute, Bill, how many people have you told that little story to that you told me the other day? He said, oh, over the years, maybe 30 or 40. I'm like, okay, 30, 40. Now, besides me, how many of them ever came back to you with any money? He said, oh, that's easy. You're the first. I'm like, I'm the first? He said, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, listen, since I'm the first and I have come up with some money, take my money. Let's write out a contract here, and I'll pay you the balance within 30, 50 days, whatever the case may be. But this is all I got right now, and I'm committed. You can see I'm committed. I came up with the money. He goes, yeah, all right. He said, okay, we'll do that. So we did. The rest is history. It took me, 4, maybe 5, 6 months, and I made $100,000 during that time frame. Made $100,000. Now, why was I able to make $100,000? Because I didn't let my lack of resources stop me. I became resourceful. Now, there are 4 qualities any business owner must have to go from wherever they are to the next level. Okay. So if you're stuck, if you're making a 50,000, 100,000, $250,000 a year, and you want to double that, and you haven't been able to, the first thing you have to be is decisive. Decisive means kill off all other opportunities. Decide has at the root of the word side. There are other words with side in them. Homicide, regicide, suicide. They all have killing off things. Deciding is killing off the alternative. So you must decide to become successful and to double your business. That is killing off the alternative to that. Secondly, you must commit. Commit. You cannot say, I'm going to give this a try. As the great philosopher Yoda said in the immortal movie, The Empire Strikes Back, do or do not. There is no
trying. My husband is, that's his favorite line.
Well, your husband's a brilliant man. He gets it.
Yes.
And so, thirdly, you must be coachable. You must have mentorship and coaching, and you must take the coaching. You must. And then finally, you must be resourceful. It will cost you money to hire a high-level mentor like me. It will cost you money to get your business out of the ditch. It will cost you time. It will cost you energy. Decisive, committed, coachable, resourceful. I only work with people who have those 4 qualities. If you have those 4 qualities, you qualify to work with Nicky Billou. If you don't, you do not.
I love it. I love all of it. And I'm right there with you as a fellow life coach. And I think commitment for me is at the top of the list, because I think if you've called me, you've already decided, but you haven't decided to commit. And when you give me that commitment, because it's financial, it is time, it's energy, like you said, it's a commitment to yourself. And I think we as humans have been geared to not invest in ourselves. And I think that's a failure we have in society today. What do you think helps or hurts our mindsets from these 4 qualities?
Well, I'll tell you, if you don't have all these 4 qualities, your mindset is weak. Your mindset is not the type of mindset that's required in order to be successful. Okay.
Right.
It's really important. And if your mindset's weak, you're probably going to undervalue yourself. And that's a big problem that a lot of coaches and consultants and other business owners do. We work with coaches and consultants. That's our biggest target market. We work with other service-based entrepreneurs, but a lot of coaches and consultants that are in business. The average coach makes $52,000 a year, according to the ICF. The average coach makes $52,000 a year. Now, the average coach we work with makes $311,000 a year. Now, why? Why? Well, because the average coach is brilliant at coaching, knows the business of how to coach somebody and get that person, some incredible benefit, but they don't know how to sell themselves. They don't know how to go out there and create outcomes for themselves because they're not trained to do that. They're trained to have the ability to help somebody as a coach. You've got to, though, value what you offer. And you got to remember, and this is something you need to write down, is people don't buy their way into something. They buy their way out of something. They're not buying into you and your program. They're buying their way out of their pain and their hell. They're buying your program only as a means out of their pain and their hell. They don't really care about your program. You care about your program. They don't. They care about themselves. They care about getting out of pain. And you've got to understand that the only reason you undervalue yourself and you undercharge, which almost all coaches do, is because you don't believe that it's worth it. Either because you really don't believe you're good enough, or you don't believe that what you have to offer, even if it is good enough, is something people are willing to pay. And why? Again, because the focus is on you. You, your program. Will they like me? Will they buy it? Am I good enough? Blah, blah, blah. No. Stop. Business is about solving problems for people for profit. I call it Nicky Billou's 3P solution, solving acute problems for wonderful people for amazing profit. And if your focus is on you, it's wrong. Your focus needs to be on them. Take the focus off you, put the focus on them. Remember, That's someone's mother, sister, daughter, father, brother, son. They're a hero to somebody. They've been disappointed by life. Maybe they've even just been disappointed by someone just like you, a coach, an advisor, a consultant who promised them everything and delivered them nothing. And you need to understand, first and foremost, that your role is to help them out of suffering. You got to serve them. And if you think that you can serve them by focusing on you, that's impossible. One reason why a lot of coaches don't do a good job of growing their business is because they don't want to be seen as pushy or salesy. They don't want to be reeking of commission breath. I want the sale. I want the sale. No, none of that crap. And I saw that and I just said, oh my God, that's horrible, because you won't get business. You should be helping that client and you're not helping that client, right? Because that client is going to have someone who is a charlatan marketer who doesn't care about them, just cares about the sale. They're going to hit the right buttons. They're going to get the sale and they're not going to deliver. That client should have worked with you because you're a good person. You care, but because you were afraid of coming across as salesy. And I saw this and I go, what if I can help these folks reframe this? What if instead of looking at it as selling, which sucks and is yucky, they looked at it as serving, which is wonderful and amazing. Nobody wants to be sold. Maureen, you don't want to be sold. I don't want to be sold, but we love to buy and we love to be served by a caring human being. And if that's where you're focused, then you're going to be successful. And then you're going to help people and you're going to be able to charge what you're worth. And that's not just good for you. That's good for your client. When you undercharge, you hurt your client. When you undercharge, you hurt your client. Why? Because your client doesn't have the same leverage over themselves to do what needs to be done to get the outcome. You're in business of getting people outcomes. You're not in business of coaching people forever. You're in business of getting people outcomes. That's why they come to you. They want an outcome. They have a problem. They want an outcome. So if you focus on the outcome, you'll charge based on what the outcome is worth and not based on some fantastical figure of what the market's going to bear. If you were a relationship coach and you worked with women attorneys in the Phoenix area that are worth $5 million, who just had their husband say, I'm out of here, and they've got little kids with that fellow and they're devastated. And what you do is you help them either fix that marriage or you help them at least have it, break up in a way that isn't going to destroy and devastate everybody. You think about that, a $5 million net worth in a divorce will go down to at least $2.5 million. That's $2.5 million you're going to help save those ladies, right?
Yeah.
And let's say you're talking to one of these ladies and you're going, listen, Susan, we're going to get you out of this. We're going to see if we can help you turn this around. And if you can't turn this around, at least we're going to be done in such a way that you're not going to lose half your fortune and you're not going to be emotionally devastated. And Susan goes, Maureen, that's great. Let's get going. What's the investment, Maureen? And you say, oh, $50. She's going to go, what? What? 50? She's not going to take you seriously.
I know.
She's not going to think you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, if you said $50,000, she'll take you seriously. She'll think you know what you're talking about. You don't want to gouge people, but you don't want to undercharge them, because if you undercharge them, they won't get the value of the solution. It's called expectancy bias. People expect more from what they pay more for.
I'm in. I mean, you're speaking directly to me, because when you said it, and it's my relationship, growing up with money too. You have to think about, the psychology behind it is, the salesy part of it. I'm that person you're just talking about where I'm like, I'm not salesy. I don't like to be pushy, and they'll come to me, but you're right.
They're not going to come to you. You need to wake up to that fact. They're not going to come to you.
Well, that's just it. It's a conflict, because my whole mindset is that I serve. And yet my financial brain, my logical brain is saying sell. And so I'm at this, this disconnect where I want to sell, but I love what you say, it only took hearing that message from Bill. And I think that's really the thing is there are coaches and there are speakers and there are people out there, consultants. You're just waiting to hear that one thing. And I remember I will be retired 1 year from corporate world, started my business, my coaching 5 years ago, right? And I get on a LinkedIn call. I know, thinking I can do them both simultaneous. And I get it on a LinkedIn call with a stranger, a business coach. And she said, Maureen, you can't have one foot on the brake and one on the gas and go anywhere. I that day had a performance review with my corporate job and said, I'm retiring after 26 years. It matters what we say. It matters what we do. And there is someone out there for everyone. I will resonate with people that you don't resonate with, and vice versa. And I think competition stops a lot of professionals. Oh, there's 100,000 coaches out there. Well, my mindset is, yeah, but there aren't 100 of me. And I am damn good at what I do. And I know that I get 100% results for my client. So we have to stop looking, right? And comparing ourselves. Isn't that something that's a limiting thing for us in business and personal, obviously?
Look, if you're focusing on you, you're going to be thinking competition, the market. If
Yeah.
you're focusing on them, you're going to be thinking service, helping this human being out of pain.
Yeah.
Which one do you think is more powerful?
Absolutely. And
Now,
always go ahead.
it's not as simple as saying that and having someone do it. There's an art and a science to pricing right and owning the price and asking for the business. Because make no mistake about it, you do need to enroll people into your programs. Service isn't give it away, right?
Yeah.
It's not service. Service is help people out of their pain and into their dream. Help people out of their pain and into their dream. When I work with a coach, right, who's a good coach, a good person that's gotten good results, but if their financial results are in what I call the golden handcuff zone, the golden handcuff zone is between $60,000 and $200,000 a year. That's good money, but it's not amazing money. You with me? It's enough money that you don't want to rock the boat too much, but it's not enough money to make all your dreams come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, there was a man who came to us and he just passed away this summer. God rest his soul, from cancer. I was so devastated when I heard it. His name was Carl Kramer. Carl with a K and Kramer, Kremer. If you could go look him up, he's still alive on social media. I mean, that's the crazy thing about social media, right? Carl had been a vice president in a corporate job, and he quit to coach. And he was a good coach, but he was really upset because he was making $7,000 to $8,000 a month, and as a vice president in corporate, he was making $250,000 a year. Right? And he came to us and he said, "Look, I see these folks you're working with. I see what you're doing for them. I want to make 20,000 a month." That was his goal, like replace his corporate income.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So the first thing that we had Carl do is really see that he was not owning himself as a powerful coach. So we helped him rewire his mind. We helped him change his pricing because his pricing was terrible. And then we helped him get clear on his ideal target market because he was trying to work with anybody. I'm your peak performance business coach. What does that even mean? Peak performance business coach. It's just like it's a cliche.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, no, Carl, you got to help people achieve one outcome. Took us a while, but we helped him. He was going to work with law firms under 2.5 million, right? Owned by a lawyer that wanted to like double, triple, quadruple, tenfold their business. So his promise was, I'm going to help great lawyers double, triple their business. And I'm like, damn. Yeah, that's good, right? So once he figured that out, within 3 months, he went from 7-8 grand a month to 40,000 a month. 3 months,
Wow.
40,000 a month. He kind of went as high as 60,000, but he thought that's too much work. 40,000 is enough. That's kind of like,
Self-care, self-care. Gotta not
right. That was
overwhelm.
a $500,000 a year for a coach without an assistant. You got to understand. And he did no marketing spend. That's the other thing we taught him. $500,000. Are you kidding me? That's wonderful.
Wow.
It's absolutely wonderful. And if you're coaching, you're listening to this, you might go, that sounds too good to be true. That's a limiting belief because it doesn't. It sounds wonderful and amazing and it's doable. All you have to do is you've got to have that decisive, committed, coachable, resourceful quality. And then you got to have yourself a good mentor, someone, like us, like me, who's going to be able to show you how to do it. Someone who's got a track record of having done it a few times. Because if you don't have that, you're toast. And, being around the right people matters. And I'd like to tell you one story, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
There was a woman who came to us. This was a few years back. And she had been the country director for Canada for one of the world's largest personal development firms. Very famous company. And she brought someone on board to help her run the company. A man she thought was very talented. It was kind of like Steve Jobs back in the day with John Scully when he brought him on board to help him run Apple. And just like Steve and John, at first everybody got along, but just like Steve and John, after a year or so, their visions of the future diverged. And just like Steve and John, there was a clash, and she got kicked out of her own company, just like Steve Jobs did. Right?
Oh my gosh.
And how can you get kicked out of your own company? I mean, it happened, and she was devastated and bereft, and she felt she'd let herself down, her family down, and 18 months of just not getting back on track. And then she was introduced to us. We kind of knew her because I'd actually done the program there, but I wasn't like super close to her at that time.
Yeah.
But she came to us and she says, look, do you think you can help me? And she explained the situation. And I said, absolutely. And, I work with my fiance. She's a wonderful, fabulous woman. And she's in this space as well. And she's been coaching for Anthony Robbins for almost 7 years, 12,000 hours of coaching. She's just awesome. And so Teresa and I really embraced her. Teresa's my lady. And she started to feel loved and cared for. That was important. She started to understand who her ideal target market was. CEOs of $10 million plus companies, owner CEOs that were burned out. And she had a message. I'm going to help you overcome burnout. For someone who's burned out, that's a good message, right? So in her first month, she made $10,000. In her second month, she made $12,000. In her third month, Maureen, she made $18,000.
Wow.
But wow, in her fourth month, she blew the doors off, $62,200. And damn, that's a good number, right? And anyways, that number will become relevant in a minute. She lives in Ottawa. I live in Toronto. It's a 5-hour drive apart, right? And so I have a couple of sons. My oldest son was 12 at the time. He plays soccer, or as I like to call it, the real football, because you actually play it with your feet.
Yes.
So we had a tournament for him in Ottawa. She has a son his age. I called her up. Hey, come to Ottawa. We're returning. You and your son want to come watch a game with us? Yeah, sure. And grab some lunch. Yeah. That happened. It was great. The kids got along. We had a good time. I drove home with my son. A few weeks later, we had one of our quarterly branded thought leader immersion workshops. This is where we teach coaches, how to add 1 to 2 zeros to their annual income while working 10 to 20 hours less a week. And it was a great event. And we were at the point where we talk about how to continue to work with us, right? Because people sign up for the workshop and then we tell them how else they can work with us. The famous upsell. Always gotta have a good upsell, right?
Oh God, yes. Oh, cringy. You know me with the sales here.
Yeah. But listen, we'll talk. We'll talk offline for a minute when we're done. But so anyways, the way I do it, which you're gonna love, is I actually don't do the selling. I have our people do it for me. So I just kind of say, hey, now we're going to talk about how we're working together, and rather than me tell you how great we are, let's hear from some of our people. They're live or I've got some taped video of them, I play that, blah, 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 right? So I just like, who'd like to share? Usually I pick somebody, right? But before I could do that, she leaps up on stage. And I mean, just like a shot. Oh, me. Whoa. Okay. Go ahead. Sure. I'm like, wow, that was wild.
Right.
And she's like smiling, high energy. And then she's not. She's crying. She's just bawling. And I'm like, listen, your husband will probably agree with me. Whenever we see a woman crying, we panic, women. What did I do wrong? That's where we go.
What's wrong? What's wrong? What happened?
What's wrong? And how is it my fault?
What did I do? What did I do?
What did I do wrong? That's it. But I had a calm, placid exterior, right? So she turns around and she's still crying and bawling. And, we give her a tissue and she blows her nose and she goes, Nick, know this, but when you and your little son came to Ottawa to see me and my little son, in that wonderful way little boys do, said, Mommy, 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 who are me? Right? And she said, oh, sweetheart, we're going to go meet Nicky Billou and his son. And then she said, all of a sudden, my sweet little boy became very serious and very quiet, lowered his voice, lowered his eyes, and went, oh, Mommy, are we going to meet the man who saved our family?
Wow.
Maureen, I don't cry usually in public. I cried. We hugged. And in between her tears, she's going, Nicky, you didn't know this, but when I came to see you, the bank was about to foreclose on our home. We hadn't paid our mortgage in months. And my husband and I, we were fighting like cats and dogs every day in front of our 3 small children. It looked like we were going to break up. Yeah. You literally helped us save our precious family. And we hugged some more and cried some more. And everyone in the room was like, oh, and they clapped. And I didn't bring anybody else up after that. I thought that was
enough. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So we handed out our registration forms. And normally when we hand out our registration forms, some people sign up, some people don't. And some people need persuasion. Not that day. Everybody signed up right away. And what did I learn? First of all, I had no idea she was dealing with this because she hadn't told me. So people are not going to tell you everything. They don't feel comfortable. And you should give space in your conversation that this person's dealing with more than they're letting on. This person's dealing with more than they're letting on. And give them all the space in the world to tell you or not when they choose to. And for me, I ask God to put a good person in front of me who is looking for a good person to help them break free from their struggle, from their plateau, from their kind of sameness. Mm-hmm. And I just want a good person like that to help, because I live for that kind of moment. That's why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do.
I don't think anyone who is in any type of this business isn't in. If you're in this business and you don't want those kind of reactions, you're in the wrong business. And I think it's with caretakers, nursing, and teachers. I just think anyone who is in the helping business and the serving business, it's about the outcome, not the income. And
that's good. I like that. I'm gonna write that down.
It's important to have that feeling. And I think, there is this dichotomy where my husband sort of reinserts into me, how many people have you helped, Maureen? Because I'm like, well, I haven't made my first billion yet. And he'll say, how many people have you helped? And so there is this dichotomy between, I love so much what I do, I would do it for free, but I don't want to do it for free. So it's
Mhm.
just an amazing place to be. And I love hearing those stories because lives are changing and that is priceless. And it's just this getting rid of the beliefs of not only the people we're helping, we're serving, but our own, limiting beliefs that say, hey, I can be that Tony Robbins or Brene Brown or, Mel Robbins. So I think that's, you're showing a lot of us so much insight into it's power. It's empowering to believe in yourself. And as soon as you start being decisive and committed and coachable and resourceful, is when things are going to change for you. And I think it is really about not only business, but life. You have to decide. I always say you have to be so tired of your shit to be ready to do this. Because if you're only half in, one foot on the brake, one foot on the gas, you're never going to make the progress that you need to make. And do you find that you in your own life, when you just jumped in all the way, took that leap? And I used to have this vision of taking this leap. And when I took that leap that day, it was the most freeing thing I'd ever done in my life. And I had a fun life and a good life. And I've lived in different countries. So to say taking a leap from my corporate job was the biggest leap is a big deal. And I think the great resignation that's been happening is all of us going, there's something more out there for us. We have control over our destinies instead of working hard to fulfill somebody else's dream. It's time to fulfill our own, right?
Amen, sister. Well said. Well said.
I just love this conversation. Let's talk about your book. Tell us about your book, where people can find it and how it'll really help them to sort of even just get started in the mindset before they reach out for coaching.
So I actually have written about 8 books. I can show you a few of them here. This one's
Nice.
my first one. It's called Finish Line Thinking: How to Think and Win Like a Champion. This is a great book on getting that mindset of a top performer. I've been fortunate enough to work with a number of Olympic gold medal athletes, billionaires. My fiance, she's a 3-time Guinness World Record holder for running 12 hours on a treadmill. And,
Oh my
totally some mindset stuff. Yeah, she's wild.
goodness. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Finish line thinking. So
Line
eight,
thinking.
8 books. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Okay. What's our
This
next one?
is this is called The Thought Leader's Journey, the Fable of Life. This is written in the form of a fable, kind of like Og Mandino's books, like The Greatest Salesman in the World, or Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It is a book written for someone who's in a corporate job and wants to have the courage to break out and start their own thing. So it's really good for that type of person. Um,
Yeah.
this book is called The Power of Connecting. I co-wrote it with Kai Bjorn, who used to be the country director for Canada for BNI Canada. And it's all about how to leverage your network. Most people don't properly leverage their network, and they don't make as much money as they should be making because they're not going into their network and looking for opportunities to be of service. And
Mm.
this is my latest book. It's called How to Create $1 Million a Year Income. And I wrote it with a client of mine who has been making $1 million a year for several years. And we just go deeply into what it takes in order to do that. There's a number of other books, but these are
Wow.
some of the
Those
books that
are
I wrote.
great. Oh, wow. Those are
Mhm.
amazing. And I'm assuming they're all on Amazon and Barnes and
Everything's on
Noble.
Amazon. You go and type in Nicky Billou, Nickybillou. It'll show you my podcasts, my books, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, 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 yes. If they want to reach out for some coaching, where they find you.
So best way is to go to my website called ecircleacademy.com. And if they want to specifically have what I call a success call, which is very similar to a discovery call, then you go to ecircleacademy.com/appointment. There is a little form we have people fill out. It's a kind of a screening form. Just want to make sure you're a serious person, serious in business and in your practice. And then you can book the call. It's free. I offer them free of charge to people. And let's have a serious conversation about where you're at in your business, in your practice, and what it's going to take to get you. Because if you've been a coach, honestly, and you're closer to $52,000 a year than you are to $500,000 a year, probably a good idea for us to speak.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Well, everything you've said is so fun. I mean, I wrote down so many notes, and I'm sure the listeners did too, because you're just a wealth of information.
Thank you.
And I love it. And I'm so honored that I got to talk to you today. And so as I end the podcast, I always do some fun little questions because we like to leave on a happy, fun note. So the first one is under 10 words. What is the sentence that you would tell your younger self?
Start now.
Short and simple. Start now. Don't wait. I love that. 2 words. You're Guinness Book of World Records for I gave you 10 and you gave me 2. See, work smarter, not harder, people. He just gave you a lesson right there. I love it. So here's my fun one. My fun one is my new segment called Take My Money. And I am finding very weird stuff with the holidays coming up. I think this is even more fun. I am finding the weirdest things online to buy, and I'm a member of a group online, and I think it's a Canadian group. Come to think of it, it's called Secondhand Finds. Weird and wacky secondhand finds that people find in secondhand stores, which is kind of cool. But today on my find, and I'm going to ask you, what's the weirdest thing that you've either bought, you've seen, or that you have to have that probably most people wouldn't spend money on? So my things I found today are for $8.71. There's a book on Amazon called How to Talk to Your Cat About Gun Safety.
Love it.
You know, and then there is a pillow for $28.99 that looks like a big baguette. It looks like a loaf of bread, and the pictures are they're snuggled up with this big fluffy baguette loaf of bread pillow. So there's my weird and wacky for today. What is your weird and wacky or must-have thing you buy, Nikki?
Weird and wacky. So I'm from Iran originally, and I like caviar, the real stuff. And a lot of people don't, but I find it absolutely delicious. And the best caviar is beluga caviar. It also happens to be extremely expensive. To buy to buy 30 grams of beluga caviar is $750, just to give you an idea. Okay, that's how expensive it is. But you can buy some of the other caviars like Ositra cheaper than that. I love caviar. And so when I have a chance and flush with cash, I go buy myself a bunch of caviar and I eat it with usually dark, thick Russian bread, hard-boiled egg yolk crumbled up, and finely chopped Spanish onions. And I put all that on the bread. It's delicious. It's absolutely spectacular.
Oh, now, I'm in. Yeah,
you love it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. The other thing that it's a little bit weird about my taste is I'm a knife collector, and I own over 100 knives in my collection. And so I have a bunch of wacky knives, from very small knives all the way to Japanese katana style swords.
I love it. My son did the same thing. Whenever we'd go on vacation, it was always, bringing him back a knife, and then he had the swords. And so that's a fun collection. I think that's
It's awesome.
really, yeah, I think that's super fun. Well, I'm into gourmet cooking. So, when you talk about the caviar, I'm like, oh God, I love exotic foods. I made my first Ethiopian meal the other day, an Ethiopian platter.
What did you
And
have? I love Ethiopian food.
yes, it was lentil stew. It was a cucumber tomato. No, not cucumber. It was a tomato collard green, like vinegar, and the spice was really, really good. It was an Ethiopian spice. I can't remember what the name of it. It started with a B. And then it was supposed to be a vegan platter, and I'm not gonna lie, I did make a filet mignon and I sliced it up to put on there because we love our meat. I sorry the vegans, but I needed the protein.
I
Put
love my
that on
meat too. I'm a
there.
meatarian.
I know I gotta have my meat. And then there was one other thing. Of course, we had our pita. I can't remember what the
Well,
other
next
thing
time you have
was.
Ethiopian, you should get the Ethiopian injera spongy bread because they actually use that to eat their food. They don't use knives and forks. And you
Yes.
should make kitfo. Kitfo is like chopped up raw beef dish. It is delicious
Oh,
and highly recommend it. Now it's pretty intense because it's raw beef, right? But boy, is it delicious.
oh, it's raw. Is it almost like where you marinate it and it gets broken down like the sort of like the tuna in the poke bowls, or is it like straight up raw, just with spices?
It's straight up raw, but they do put some really intense spices on it and
Okay.
butter. So it's
Oh.
buttered up and spiced up. It's different, but it's really good.
I love it. I love it. Indian food is my favorite. I met a gentleman who came to give us a quote on remodeling our bathroom, and his wife is Lebanese, and he is, oh, I can't remember what he is. They're both Middle Eastern, and just like you, like so personable. And we like became best friends. He took a selfie before he left, and he said, we're going up to the Tonto Bridge, which here in Arizona is this beautiful, nature made bridge with a waterfall. And he said, come on, because we brought 40 of our family over from Lebanon to live here in Arizona. And we're all going up there, and everyone's bringing a dish. And he goes, don't bring
Wow.
anything. And I was like, oh, go so bad. I said, don't extend an invitation you're not willing to fulfill. And he goes, no, 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 you guys come. And that's the kind of thing I love, is the getting together and the food, and just people stay in a box in their lives, and food is one of those boxes that you guys got to get out of that box and try new cuisines. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Just go do it. So thank you for those ideas, for sharing, for just being an inspiration to all of us today. And I know you're going
My
to
pleasure.
resonate with me all day. And I feel good. I feel positive. And you know what? That's what this
Me
is
too.
all about. We never knew. We never knew. And now here we are, succeeding and inspiring others. So thank you, my friend. Happy
My
hump
pleasure.
day. And you
Thank you.
stay warm there in Canada, okay?
I will.
All right. You stay in touch with me, and we'll talk soon.
Alrighty.